Hi there, everyone. This is Lily from Je t'aime me neither, and it is time for our latest short story in our series, There's Only One Paris. And these are participatory short stories that are created based on your favorite venues in Paris and including little commentary and descriptions and tidbits that some of you have also contributed. And so before we launch into our story, which is taking us to the east end of Paris, we are going to a place called the Promenade Plantée and the Viaduc des Arts. You will learn all about them in the story. The venue was suggested by Terry Harrell, so thank you very much, Terry. So a special thank you for contributing this idea, which sparked this week's story. Jeannie Meyer sent in some wonderful commentary again, and then many of you contributed lovely little memories and ideas of the Promenade Plantée, especially over the course of the week. And so those people are acknowledged in the post on my site. And just another little extra special thank you today to Georgina, Pandora, and Mats, who helped inspire the plot line and provided the names of the characters. So we're going to get launched right into it. And so this week's story is called Rata-toile at the Promenade Plantée and the Viaduc des Arts. Magnifique! I'm so glad you like them. I can't wait to see them in person. Oh yes, you'll love them even more when you see them at the gallery. The exhibit opening is on Thursday, right? Yes, from 6 p.m. I'll be there right at 6. Excellent. I look forward to seeing you then. À jeudi, see you Thursday. Yannick hung up the phone and did a little happy dance. Since representing Yossi Karakami, he'd been wooing Lady de Bourgh, perhaps the most influential collector of contemporary paper sculpture in France. It had been a gamble when Yannick had accepted to represent Yossi. However, the innovative artist had been gradually making headway, and a recent critique in Art News stoked interest in his work. Selling a few pieces to Lady de Bourgh would certainly elevate his status in the art world. Yannick was relieved. He loved his gallery and would hate to give it up if he didn't make some big sales, and fast. He looked up at its soaring arched ceiling and thanked God for the luck he'd had in landing this unique space. Yannick had put in his time. After completing his art history degree, he went on to do a second master's in art management, after which he landed an internship at an Upper Marais contemporary art gallery. He'd risen in the ranks in the renowned gallery, going from photocopying minion to assistant manager. But after 10 years, he knew he couldn't rise any higher there. Despite being a ripe age for retirement, it would take a true apocalypse for the owner of the gallery to give it up. She would be puffing away on her galois and ordering around her staff until she was 100, unless her lungs gave up before. Over the course of his time at the gallery, Yannick had been very smart. He'd carefully fostered relationships with the gallery's clients, art critics, and artists. Sure, it was risky, but Yannick was confident he could make it on his own. As soon as he arrived at the address provided by the real estate agent, he knew it was perfect. In front of him was a towering wall of glass set within a colossal brick archway. He was at the Viaduc des Arts. In the mid-19th century, a vast network of rail lines was created in and around Paris. Some were built for long-distance travel, others to transport suburban commuters in and out of the city. Some of the latter are still in use. However, when suburban trains went underground in the city in the 1960s, with the arrival of the RER train system, much of the above-ground suburban railway was phased out. In recent times, sections of this have been rehabilitated, starting with an impressive 1.5-kilometer long viaduct extending east from Place de la Bastille. In the late 1980s, a walkway was created atop its 64 vaults, and the spaces beneath the arches were encased in glass, resulting in attractive venues mostly used for art galleries, artisanal workshops, and design boutiques. A beautiful example of architectural preservation or repurposing, it was the inspiration for many other projects like this around the world, like the High Line in New York. The spaces at the viaduct rarely came up for rent, so it was perfect timing that Yannick was ready to break free from the clutches of the chain-smoking galleryist and open one in his own name. Or was the timing all that perfect? Within months of opening, Yannick had to contend with a 2-month-long transit strike, which virtually paralyzed the city. This prevented people from attending a much-anticipated show in December and brought him only a trickle of visitors throughout January. He was very eager to bounce back from this lag and had an excellent exhibit lined up for April, which ever so unfortunately had to be cancelled because of the virus. A lot was riding on this new show. The exhibit would not just launch the new season, it would make or break his whole career. Yannick slid his cell phone into his pocket and went back to installing the exhibit. It was Tuesday, so he had 3 full days to finish up. That was plenty of time. Plus, he'd already hung the most difficult work, so the rest should be a walk in the park. He gazed up at Yoshi's marvels. Suspended from the ceiling was a collection of delicate paper sculptures. In between cloud and leaf, the sculptures were all made of natural materials and pigments, created by ingredients the artist had foraged himself in the forests around Paris. Hey, wait a second, thought Yannick as he observed the hanging artwork. What's that? Are those spots? He could have sworn that there were not dark marks in the work when he installed them yesterday. He'd been very careful, but some dust might have fallen on them overnight. He got out his big ladder and climbed up to have a look. He squinted to scrutinize the works. His eyes immediately widened. No, it wasn't dust. There were small holes in the sculptures, which strongly resembled tiny bite marks. His eyes followed the meandering path of holes all the way to the farthest hanging sculpture. Yannick's eyes widened even further, and his mouth dropped as a small creature hopped off the sculpture and onto an industrial-looking air vent. "Hey, you!" he shouted. The creature's small head turned to look at him, its beady pupils locking with Yannick's hazel ones. It then darted along the vent, long thin tail trailing behind. A mouse. Yannick watched, horrified, as it zoomed to the end of the vent and into the slot of its evacuation grate. He scrambled down the ladder and raced to the back door of the gallery. Luckily, there was a stairwell nearby which led to the upper level. He bounded up it 2 steps at a time, arriving at the top just as the little rodent popped through the exit grate. It bolted for some greenery. Yannick chased after it, diving heroically into the bushes. Alas, he was no Zorro. He didn't have a sword to cut through the thick bamboo he suddenly found himself in. He attempted to rifle through the shoots as best he could, but the minuscule menace was nowhere in sight. Defeated, Yannick cleared a path through the thicket, trying to find his way out. "Ah! What are you doing in here?" hollered a woman who was crouching down at the base of the thicket. "What are you doing here?" Yannick spit out in return. "I work here," she yelled at him. "So do I," he shouted back. "Well, I mean, downstairs." "Oh, well, isn't that nice?" she said mockingly. "By the looks of your clothing, at one of those fancy schmancy art galleries, huh? Well, I work right here, and this area is normally off limits." The woman stood up and brushed the dirt from her green uniform. Yannick was flustered. She obviously was a gardener, and was obviously right. I was chasing a mouse." "Chasing a mouse?" she questioned. "Are you sure it was a mouse?" "What do you mean?" he asked. "Well, it might have been a rat," she replied. "I don't think there are any mice up here. Some breeds of rats look like mice, but that's totally beside the point. Why were you chasing it?" "It was damaging some valuable artwork." The gardener sighed. "I'm not sure that's a valid reason to harm it." But, started Yannick. "Come with me." She cut him off, clearing the way through the bamboo. But, Yannick tried again. "Let's go to my office. I've got a booklet of all the flora and fauna found here. We can verify what exactly it was that you saw." Yannick obeyed, mainly because he wanted to get out of the greenery and back to the gallery. "Look, that's nice of you and all, but I don't really know if that's necessary," he said a little arrogantly. "If you want to prevent it from damaging any more of your precious artwork, it is," she replied in an equally smug tone. The gardener indeed knew the way out of the tall shoots, and soon they were on La Promenade Plantée. Officially called the Coulée Verte René Dumont, this was the walkway found above the Viaduc. It was like a secret garden that Paris was hiding in plain sight. High above the street and protected from the noise of the traffic below, The promenade was a lovely green space filled with trees, budding bushes, hedges, and a profusion of different varieties of flowers. Some hung on green metal trellises. In some places there was bamboo which lined on either side of the walkway, tilting over to make an arch as you walked through it, like where Yannick currently found himself. Ignoring whether Yannick was following or not, the gardener turned right. Yannick brushed off his suit pants and readjusted his slim-fitting shirt and marched after her. Thank you for helping me, he decided. It was better to change his tune a little. No problem, she replied, also softening her stance. I've had some issues with these rodents, and I think you might have spotted a foreign one that's been invading the promenade. It would be useful for our statistics to know which one you exactly saw. Ah, I see, Madame, Yannick said, fishing for her name. Sandrine, and you? She answered, opting to go straight for a first name basis since they seemed about the same age. Yannick, nice to meet you, Sandrine, he said, extending his hand. Same, but you don't want to shake these hands, she said, holding up her dirty fingers. They both smiled. At the end of the bamboo shoots, they reached a section which had an elongated water pool and a water fountain. Beyond this, Sandrine led Yannick over a small footbridge and past a grassy area where a few people were reading the newspaper over a takeaway coffee. The promenade was so welcoming and beautiful, too. This tranquil place was popular with the locals of eastern Paris. As Yannick scuttled after Sandrine, he noticed all kinds of people. Walkers, joggers, kids with ice creams in hand, little old ladies strolling very slowly, huddling lovers, bird watchers, and a group of school kids singing. It's really pretty up here, said Yannick, taking in their surroundings. I don't come up to the promenade enough. It's a great place to work, she replied. It really feels like a completely different world up here, like it's been touched by a more celestial or heavenly spirit. I guess that's thanks to you and the other gardeners, Yannick complimented sweetly. It's all nature's doing, said Sandrine modestly. We just give it a small helping hand. The walkway's route took them through building complexes and even through a couple of tunnels. From up here, you get to see Parisian buildings, their rooftops and chimneys, from a different angle, a unique vantage point. This part of the promenade would be perfect for a romantic stroll, thought Yannick, sneaking a peek at Sandrine out of the corner of his eye. No, his mind scolded. He had to concentrate on the issue at hand, that troublesome rodent. They arrived at one of the stairwells that led down to the street. Next to this was a door to which Sandrine produced a key and opened. A cross between an office and a garden shed. The room was filled with all kinds of gardening equipment. On the left were 2 desks and a bookcase. Sandrine scanned the collection of books until she found a thin, soft-covered booklet. She set it down on her desk and flipped through the pages. Aha! Here's the right section, she said. Can you identify which of these creatures it might have been? Yannick examined the lineup of potential suspects. Indeed, there were subtle differences between the array of rodents. Different tones of fur, smaller or bigger noses, pointy or rounded ears, shorter or longer tails. I think it could be this one, he determined, finger stabbing one of the images. Just as I thought, she declared. The marsh rice rat. Since they are small and more brownish than gray, they resemble what we think a mouse should look like. They are native to the Florida Keys and the Gulf Coast. But we believe someone here in Paris had one as a pet, but set it free. They are now breeding like crazy here because they like the swampy sections of the promenade. Ah, I see, said Yannick, completely lost on the details of this rat mouse. If it comes to your gallery again, could you call me? She asked. We're trying to catch one so we can put a tracker on it. That way we could be led to their main nest. Sure, of course, he replied. I'll do anything to help get rid of them. Great, she said, handing him her card. I gotta get back to work. I have a lot to finish before nightfall. Oh, of course. I have a lot to do to finish installing our next art exhibit, he countered. You might actually like it. It's very nature-oriented. Oh, really? She said. Maybe I'll stop by one day. That'd be great, he said, perhaps a little too keenly. In the meantime, I'll let you know if I have another sighting. Parfait. Perfect. Have a nice day, she said. Yannick hurried back to the gallery. He really did have a lot to do. Slipping in through the back door, he saw that there was someone peering in the window. It was Lady de Bourgh. What was she doing here? The elegant 50-something knocked on the window. Darn, she'd seen him. There was no hiding in the gallery due to these humongous windows. He had no choice but to go over and open the door. Madame de Bourgh, how nice. Yannick! I just couldn't resist, she screeched, barging past the stunned, helpless Yannick and into the gallery. I was in the neighborhood, and I just had to come by to get a sneak peek. I'm dying to see Yoshi's new work. But I haven't finished installing it yet, he yelped. Oh, incroyable, she gushed, looking up at the works. J'adore. Oh, I see that he's incorporated something new. Those holes. Magnifique. Simply magnifique. Oh, double-mared, thought Yannick. What was he going to do now? Lady de Bourgh had fallen in love with the mouse's, no, the rat's handiwork. I hope he has many, many more of those, she cooed. I want to buy them all. Don't let anyone else lay claim to them. I'll be here on Thursday at 6 p.m. sharp. And with that, she turned around and sauntered in her impeccable Chanel suit back out the front door and into her awaiting, chauffeured, sleek black sedan. Yannick stared at the door, then looked back up at the artwork. He had to get the ratiste back. Yannick pondered over how to lure back the rodent. Cheese. Don't rats like cheese? No, that was mice. But then again, maybe rats like cheese too. Maybe it wasn't even a rat. Maybe it was really a mouse, like he'd originally thought. He headed out the gallery's back door. This time he didn't take the stairs up, but instead the street perpendicular to the viaduct. He walked with purpose through the back streets of the 12th district until he reached his target destination, the Place d'Aligre, which was home to one of Paris's historic covered market halls, Le Marché Beauvau. Although part of the building was damaged by fire a few years ago, it still retained its character. In the mornings, the market spilled out over some of the neighboring streets with open-air vendors. However, in the afternoons, only the covered section was open. That's all he needed. Inside was a fromagerie. What kind of cheese would a rat mouse like? Yannick wondered as he entered the food temple, instantly hit by an intense melange of aromas and colors. Gruyere, of course. The holy cheese was usually associated with its small, furry fans. Yannick went over to the cheese counter and ordered some Gruyere. Then added in 2 other hard cheeses, some Beaufort and some Comté. Maybe an art gallery rat mouse had a more refined palate. Carefully wrapped cheese in hand, before leaving, it struck Yannick that since he was already at the market, he might as well pick up a few supplies for Thursday's opening. He quickly went over to get some olives and a variety of nuts and some chic Italian breadsticks. He then nipped into the wine shop for a case of Bordeaux. Arms loaded down with supplies, Yannick teetered back to the gallery and set about with his important task. Mission Rata-toile. Toile was the French word for canvas. Yoshi's creations were like small, gently flowing canvases, which now needed to be dotted with shoe marks. He began by unpacking the other sculptures. He would place them strategically to attract le petit ratiste. Just then, he had a brainwave and picked up the phone. Hello? Oui, hello, Sandrine? Oui, yes, this is Sandrine. It's Yannick from earlier today, the art gallery owner. Oh yes, has the rat returned? She asked excitedly. Well, not exactly, he started. I was hoping I could get your help with something, a way to get it to come back. Would you mind stopping by later? Okay, I guess, she replied. I usually finish around 6 p.m. Would that be okay? Perfect. Do you know where the gallery is? Just under the bamboo grove, right? Right. Okay, see you later. Au revoir. He had just over an hour before Sandrine would arrive, so Yannick returned to his unpacking. Once finished, he unwrapped the 3 cheeses and meticulously cut them up into rat-mouse bite-sized little pieces. Yannick put down his cheese knife. It was 6:10. On the other side of the door was smiling Sandrine, who changed out of her work clothes and was in a pair of jeans and a t-shirt with the words "We Love Green" in caps, a souvenir she must have purchased from the eco-friendly festival which took place annually in Paris in June. Sandrine was proving to be a staunch environmentalist through and through. "Bonsoir," greeted Yannick as he swung open the door. "Salut," she cheered. "Wow, nice place." "Thank you," he said, with a hint of pride. "I've been here for a year." "Ooh, ouch. Tough first year, I imagine," she replied thoughtfully. Yannick gave her a brief overview of the gallery's backstory, its current woes, what the ratiste had done, and why it was so important for it to come back and get to work on the other pieces. "So, I've prepared all this cheese to lure—" "Stop right there, Yannick," she ordered. "Rats and mice don't actually like cheese. It's just a myth." "Oh, no." "Oh, yes, but don't worry, because I know what they do like, especially this particular breed. I'll be back in a few minutes." Before he could say anything, she fled the gallery. Nevertheless, as promised, she was back in a flash, clutching something green. "What's that?" asked Yannick. "Very special marsh grass," she answered. "Marsh grass?" he said, confused. "Yes, remember I said the culprit is likely a marsh rice rat." "Yes." "Well, we think they are attracted to the promenade because it has the specific marsh grass in the marshy areas, which they adore. If something is going to bait your gluttonous rat, it's this." "Wow, that's genius," he beamed. "And that explains it. I know the artist uses all natural ingredients. I thought he got them from the forests outside Paris. Maybe instead he was sneakily picking them from up on the promenade." "I did notice patches of this grass going missing a few months ago. There was no evidence of chew marks, which really had me puzzled." "Then we've solved 2 mysteries. Now let's solve a third. I think I know just how to lure in the rat." Over the next hour, Yannick assisted Sandrine as she carefully rigged the marsh grass to tempt the ratiste into the gallery and over the works. "That should do it," she said. "Great, now what?" "We wait," she answered. "After he's done his handiwork on the artwork, I want to try to catch it so I can put on that tracker I mentioned before. Plus, it might not like cheese, but I certainly do." "Sounds like a plan. Do you like wine too? I have some Bordeaux." "Well, I'm more of a Côte du Rhône fan, but Bordeaux will do," she teased. Yannick got 2 glasses from his kitchen area and opened up the wine. "Maybe we should dim the lights and hide over on the other side of the gallery, behind those empty boxes," she suggested, "so it doesn't see us." "Yes, good idea," Yannick replied. Hiding behind the large cardboard boxes, which had previously contained the sculptures, in hushed voices, Yannick and Sandrine exchanged life stories while nibbling on le fromage and sipping le vin rouge. Sandrine told Yannick how she'd discovered her calling during the endless hours of playing in the Palais Royal as a child, and how she disregarded her parents' wishes and pursued a career as a gardener. Yannick told her how his art history thesis supervisor, Professor Conroy, cried at the inauguration of his art gallery, bittersweet, as she'd lost her protege to the contemporary art world years before, but was proud of all that he had achieved. They took turns on watch for the ratiste, but after a while they were so engrossed in conversation they'd almost forgotten about their original mission. Sandrine was just telling Yannick about a clever crow who had figured out how to turn on the fizzy water dispenser, which was located up on the promenade, and now came every day for a drink, when they heard some scratching noises. "That must be it," Yannick hissed. The two peered over the box. Uh-oh, it seemed like they were too late. High up on the other side of the gallery, all they could see was the shadow of a small creature zooming along the vent and sneaking out through the grate. They hopped up to go and examine the artwork. "That little pest," admonished Yannick. "He's gone and eaten just the marsh grass and hasn't even touched the artwork at all." "Rats!" exclaimed Sandrine. They turned to each other and laughed. "Well, there's always tomorrow." "Yes, as long as you come and help me again," said Yannick. "I will, as long as you pick up some more cheese. And a bottle of Côte du Rhône," she said with a sly smile. "I've got some vegetables from the community garden I participate in. I'll make some ratatouille to go with our Rata-toile." "Sounds perfect," concluded Yannick with a twinkle in his eye. On the surface, it might seem like Mission Rata-toile hadn't been successful. However, the ratiste had created an entirely different canvas, one bringing together art, nature, and possibly a bit of romance at the Promenade Plantée and the Viaduc des Arts. I hope you enjoyed this week's story. So stay tuned next week where we're going to a flashy place in Paris and we're going to be covering the Opera Garnier with a mystery. So I hope that has piqued your interest and I look forward to seeing you next week. So in the meantime, stay safe, stay reading, and remember that there's only one Paris and it's waiting for you.